This video will walk you through estimating regressions with dummy variables. And that part's not that difficult, but we need to think about how we convert variables that are qualitative to dummy variables that we can actually use in our regressions. So we're going to replicate something that looks similar to this. I'm going to have all the different regressions, but this is the last example where we saw how a dummy variable shifted the intercept. But we're going to go back and actually re-estimate this regression right here that we had from, I think we did this in another separate video, um, or I demonstrated this in, we discussed this in a previous section, how we can estimate this regression, but we have to make sure we convert our variables to dummies before we, or to dummy variables before we estimate the regression. So notice we have the price of the house, which is continuous, quantitative, the size of the house and the age of the house. These are all quantitative, continuous variables. And age is measured discretely in years, but we still treat that as continuous. But we have these variables, pool, fireplace, and college, that are words, yeses and nos. So what we have to do is take the yeses and nos and convert those to zeros and ones. So I'm going to show you the way I prefer to do this. There are multiple ways to do it, but this is the way I prefer to do this. Since we have to have variables in adjacent columns to include them in a regression, I don't want to generate my pool, fireplace, college dummy variables out here to the right. Because if I generate them over here, I now have this text in between square footage, age, and those variables, and it's not going to work out. So what we can do is highlight these three cells, or these three columns, right click, insert, and now I have three cells where I can fill in the blanks. So I want to keep things in the same order. So this will be pool, fireplace, and college. And these are the cells that I will use to hold the zeros and ones that are going to be based on these variables right here. And I keep them in the same order because I want to do this once and then just drag and fill and fill in the rest of the cells. So what we need to do is, here's the wrong way to do this. You could go down through here and everywhere you see a no, make a 0. Everywhere you see a yes, make a 1. But that's time consuming and you are almost guaranteed to make a mistake. An easier way to do that would be to sort the data. So you could go up here, you go to highlight everything, sort it. We want to sort this on the second pool column. Hit OK. And now we have all of our no's here and our yeses down here. So that would be a little bit faster, but that's still not the way we want to do this. What we want to do is use the if-else function to generate these dummy variables. So the way the if-else function works, you tell Excel, if this cell equals a particular value, make this cell a 1 or a 0. So what we want to do here is in the pool cell, type equals, if tab, G2 equals, in quotes, no, give me a 0, else give me a 1. And this tells me, or is telling Excel, if that cell is equal to no, assign this cell 0. If it's anything else, assign it a 1. So if I hit enter, notice I'm getting a 0 right here. If I run this down, I'm getting 1s everywhere that's a yes and 0s everywhere that's a no. Since these are all in the same order, I can drag this over, double click it. Actually, I need to do it in these cells. Run that down, and now my fireplace is referencing the fireplace column, my college is referencing the college column, and I now have zeros and ones that represent the yeses and nos in columns G through I. Now you don't want to delete these columns because if you delete them, you lose your references right here. So you have to keep it here for now, but we're not going to be using these columns anymore. So now when we estimate the regression, it's a relatively straightforward process. We'll go back up to analysis tools. Data analysis. Regression. Okay. So this is just leftover information from some other problem. So get rid of all of this that you see if it does show up. So our Y range is going to be the price. So I'm going to click in that cell, Command Shift down. If you're on a Windows machine, you would do Control Shift down. I'm going to click in the input X range. I'm going to highlight my square footage through my college columns. Command Shift down again. Make sure these line up. If it's A1 to A1001, we need to be at B1 to F1000. The ranges need to be the same, 1 to 1001, 1 to 1001. Make sure you check labels. For the output range, let's put this somewhere it's not going to overwrite any of our other data. So we can place it right here, hit OK. And we have our regression output. Just highlight this, double click it. I'm going to make it life a little bit easier. I'm going to highlight everything here. I'm going to format this as a number, and that'll take away some of my decimal places. That's a little easier to see. Reline the columns here. And now we can see we have the exact same results that we have in this table right here. So if you have variables with with qualitative variables and you need to convert those to zeros and ones, we can do it very quickly using that if-else function. Now, if you have a variable that has more than one category, so you have location, for example, you would need to create dummy variables for all but one of those categories. So let's say you have a data set and it has the area where the home is located, and you have east, west, north, and south. You would do the same thing to create dummy variables for 3 of those areas. So maybe you know your homes are in the east part of the county, the west part of the county, north part of the county, south part of the county. Let's say you omit south. So you create dummy variables for east, west, and north. You would now compare all of the coefficients on those areas to the south region. So just like here, when we converted pool to yes is 1, no is 0, this coefficient would be the premium when you have the pool. This would be the premium when you have the fireplace compared to no fireplace. This is the premium for being in the college town compared to not being in the college town, because we coded the yeses as ones and the zeros as nos. If we did this the opposite way, where we coded the nos as a 1 and the yeses as zeros, nothing would change except the signs on the coefficients. These would all become negative instead of positive. So it's the same model, it's just a slightly different, you're just changing the reference group. So that should help you understand how to generate the dummy variables, because in many cases they are not going to be given to you.